Welcome back everyone to Gotcha Interact. Today we're going to be looking at the first half of the 5.4 banners today. The first character we're going to be looking at is a new character, Mizuki, and the second character is actually a rerun character for Sigewinne. Let's go through both these banners and even their weapons and see if any of these are a real good pulling option for you. So the first character we're going to be looking at is Mizuki. Like I stated before, she's going to be a brand new character dealing a lot of things based off of her elemental mastery, and she even ascends into it as well. Looking at her skill, basically that's really where the skill in the burst is really where you're going to be kind of using her. Her skill is going to be only usable while she's on field, but it is going to put her into the Dream Drifter state. While you're in the Dream Drifter state, you're going to be constantly pushed forward, basically moving forward, and dealing instances of anemo damage as you do so at certain intervals. Now, also during this time, the things that you drop in your burst, which we'll talk about in a second, you have a larger pickup range basically while you're in your skill to pick these up to then actually trigger the effects in the burst. Also, you're going to increase the swirl damage while you're in the Dream Drifter state that you do based on Mizuki's elemental mastery. So you're going to see a lot more of those swirl numbers are going to be possibly higher just because of the damage that she can do based off the elemental mastery. Now, if you basically leave the field, Mizuki is not on the field anymore, you switch to any other character, or you use her elemental skill again, the state will end and then have to be re-triggered. Now, looking at the burst, you're going to basically do a big AoE anemo damage hit, and then on top of that, you're going to then summon Mini Baku. Now, Mini Baku as well will also be throwing out a specialty snack, and that's that thing that I was talking about before with actually looking at Mizuki with her skill. You're basically going to have a larger range to pick those up. If you pick it up and you have less than 70% HP, it'll actually heal the active character. If you have 70% or more, it's actually going to do a damage hit. All of that's going to be based off of elemental mastery, specifically with the healing. The actual damage though is still based off of attack, so not a full elemental mastery built character. It just seems like really the only thing that's helping is really the swirl damage and then the healing that you get through the burst. Everything else is going to be based off of attack.
Now looking at Sigewinne and what she kind of brings to the table for your account, she is a 5-star hydro healer, so don't be expecting any kind of damage, although she does have a little bit of damage potential in the burst, but that is pretty arguable. It's really not why you should be pulling Sigewinne. She is a dedicated healer, and she may be just one of the best at it in the game. Her heals are very, very chunky, and she does heal the entire team, which is a very good thing, especially for people who like to use Farina. Sigewinne is naturally a good teammate in that scenario just because of healing the entire team. It's not just restricted to the on-field character. So in short, the way Sigewinne works, or the way you're going to want to use her, is you're going to use her skill. Her skill is where all of her healing comes from. You're going to use her skill, and it does have a tap or a hold. Usually you just only have to tap it. You don't have to ever hold it. The hold is kind of interesting because it charges up her little bubble gun shot a little bit more, and if it hits smaller enemies, you can actually make them immobile, and you can actually kind of feel like a Hydro Abyss Mage because you make them immobile just like those guys make you immobile sometimes if you get caught in one of those bubbles. Sigewinne can do that, but only on smaller enemies, so it's really, you never find yourself needing to use it because obviously bigger enemies just you can't do that with. So I always just personally just tap her skill. She also is going to create 2 source water droplets when she does this, similar to those that are created by Novelette. Fun fact, Novelette can pick those up too. Kind of interesting, not necessary. But the idea is you want to pick these up with Sigewinne. This will give her a little bit of Bond of Life, which is good if you have her weapon, which we'll also talk about later. This will give her a little bit more HP when you have her weapon. And obviously because her healing scales on her HP, that's a good thing to have. So the main idea with the skill is once you do use it, the bubble that Sigewinne creates with her skill will bounce 5 times on different opponents, and every time it does bounce, this is when it heals everyone in your party based on Sigewinne's max HP, and then after that, it will then disappear and then heal Sigewinne herself for a pretty massive heal. Now with her burst, this is where a little bit of that damage potential does come in, but it's not anything crazy, so don't get your hopes up for it. It is kind of fun and nice, especially if you do have the weapon, so you can try out some fun things there. She actually can hit, not Novelette terms of damage, but can get pretty close if you are kind of building for it. But once again, I'm not going to recommend that.
This video is sponsored by TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. TokyoTreat and Sakuraco have a mission to invite everyone to experience Japan from the comfort of their own homes, and the best way to do that is through their signature snack boxes. Use code INTERACT at TokyoTreat and Sakuraco's main link that you'll be able to find in the description. Looking at the next month that we have for TokyoTreat and Sakuraco, we actually are getting into the month of February. Now, for February, obviously everybody knows that it is Valentine's Day, and so for TokyoTreat's box, it's very, very pink, and it looks like the same thing can be said of Sakuraco's over there as well. It actually has like a cool little design with like 2 people on it. So,
All right.
as always, both are extremely filled to the brim like normal. Both of them come with a booklet that'll be able to show you a little bit more about each of the snacks that is inside and tell you a little bit about the history, usually about artisans that have crafted them and everything else as well. Great thing about TokyoTreat and Sakuraco, all of this stuff is localized stuff that you can find in Japan, shipped right to your front door. So Rip, Sakuraco always gives you a nice good old tea. So what did you get today?
Oh yeah, we always get a tea in the Sakuraco boxes, and they are so good. And this month we have the caramel hoshija, and it's so good. You always get 2 teas per package, so this is this month's tea. Oh man, that's so stellar. I love the caramel flavor. It has that kind of soothing effect, really like smooth caramel.
Another great thing is if you're a huge Kit Kat fan, TokyoTreat is one of the best boxes to get. Every single month they get you a different type of Kit Kat, and this month we have the red and white. So the idea is red for Valentine's Day, white for White Day. Valentine's Day in Japan, girls will usually give chocolates to boys. That's kind of just been a tradition. White Day is then vice versa, so the boys will usually give the candy to girls, or whoever is given the present on Valentine's Day, it's then reversed on White's Day a little bit later, about a month later. So I'm gonna see how well this tastes, which I mean,
they're so
Japanese
good.
Kit Kat. So it's milk chocolate and white chocolate. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty amazing.
Chocolate orange. So it's like these little wafers. It's actually like a hard cracker, I guess. It's like, it's hard at first, and it kind of just like dissolves in your mouth slowly. That's really good. I like the texture.
I got a strawberry mochi. Oh my goodness, it's got a strawberry center.
That's
fantastic.
so good.
Okay, I
Oh,
like
man.
that way more than it being like strawberry altogether. I like biting through the mochi and then getting to the strawberry center.
Yeah, yeah.
That is so
Lucky.
perfect. The Kit Kats were good. That might be better. Now I know also besides the tea, they also usually send you something else with the tea, right, Riff?
Yeah, that is absolutely right. So with Sakuraco, each month you get an actual like household type of item. One month I got a cool little artisan crafted little like dish that you can put little candies in, or it's really just a decorative item and it looks really pretty. This month though, it's actually this really, really opulent and ornate cloth. And the video probably doesn't do this justice, but it feels like I'm holding nobility, a royal cloth I just found in the palace or something. But what it's actually used for is to make these little wrapped boxes. That's the cloth wrapped around like a type of gift box. And it's kind of a tradition there in Japan that they use. It's called furoshiki. And so that's kind of what it's for. So you can use this cloth as like, just, you know, wrap up a little gift box for a friend or just whatever you want, even a napkin. And you can just feel like royalty using a really opulent napkin.
I am also a huge salty and savory snack person. So every single time they give us salty snacks, I always love to try them. And these are fresh salt and fresh seaweed chips. So it's umami seaweed. Okay, seaweed and salty. I was expecting this to be way saltier, but it's like perfect. Like it's just the amount of saltiness. Like it's not overbearing at all. I need to figure out where they got these chips. I'm gonna have to like take out the entire production line of them.
One of the other
Just
things
way
I
in their
found
shop.
very interesting in my box is this right here. You can see in the picture, it's the top one. Ume shiso senbei, the like little crackers, but these right here. Oh wow, that's awesome. It's crafted from 100% Niigata koshihikari rice. These senbei feature a carefully balanced blend of shiso and plum, offering a refined sweet and sour flavor. And I definitely felt that when I threw it in my mouth. It was kind of a tart surprise, and then it just goes sweet. That's really good, but it's like a little chip. They're like little crackers.
Well, that's mostly everything we've got looking at least in the snacks. We just picked out a few things that we liked. If you guys got these snacks as well, please go ahead and let us know in the comments or anything else like that. Let us know what you guys actually think of these. Once again, use code INTERACT to get $5 off your first purchase at TokyoTreat and Sakuraco. Find the link in the description. Now, back to the video. Now looking beyond the actual banners, let's go ahead and talk about the question section, which our first question is always, do you actually need either character on your account? Specifically looking at how valuable is each character. Mizuki is a fun looking character, and we even are thinking that she's going to be thrown over to the standard banner. And for a lot of people, that's going to be an initial turnoff to really want her. And honestly, you're not going to be wrong in that sense. The damage that she's kind of a damage build character. She's not an amazing healer. Like their heals aren't insane, and they're not super consistent either, unless your character is always extremely low. You do have the ability for heals over time, I guess, once you pop your burst. Over time, you'll get some heals, and that'll be nice. It also combines with Viridescent, so you could get something like that, and that would be kind of cool. But once again, with that skill state, like I talked about earlier, you have to be on field to actually make that swirl damage bigger. If she was off field and doing consistent animo damage, that actually would be really, really good, considering there's just not really too much about her. Her damage isn't fantastic. Her healing is good, but it's just, once again, if you really, really want a lot of heals, it's not as consistent as you're probably going to want. She's a standard character, as a standard character gets. Besides that, cool looking character, but that's probably all I have to say about her. Nothing of extreme value. Honestly, for a lot of people, it's probably going to be a skip, and this is probably going to be some saving time for you to get ready for the next character that you might want to pull for. Looking at the other character, in a similar fashion, a lot of people are going to be skipping Sigewinne most likely. Now, the thing with Sigewinne, though, is that Sigewinne is actually a good character, like an actually really, really good character. Like Rift talked about, a lot of heals, and even when you start to get into doing some fun meme builds, just trying to get a lot of damage out in the burst, it still can happen. And even the C6 players get a insane amount of damage out of that burst, but even still, there's a fun way to play her, even if you want to do some sort of meme builds, if that's kind of your thing. And even if you're not, and you just want a solid healer, like Rift talked about, the heals are very, very good. Also, just in general, like Rift also talked about, putting her with Farina is an extremely good combo. They're both Hydro characters, so it works out even more in that sense. The constant HP change is really, really good. So there's some really solid abilities to really put these two characters together. So if you want to use them together, it's very, very good. Also works really well with a character like Neuvillette, one of the best DPS we have in the game. A lot of possibilities and positives to talk about Sigewinne. Thing is that a lot of players are probably just going to be taking this time to skip, but I would say her value is still pretty good as a character. So at least that's how I see these two characters in a nutshell.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you overall. I think just to be to the point, from a meta perspective, obviously these characters are seen as very mid. Mizuki, if you want to say. I know some people have been saying that. So number one, like you said, she's just not going to be that great. She's not bringing a lot to the table that we already have in just other characters. You might as well just, even Sayu in comparison, I don't think pales that much to even a character like Mizuki. And so, you know, there's
Right.
Jean, if you already have Jean. The other thing is she is going to the standard for sure. We found that out on the live stream. And even if maybe you're sitting here thinking, well, I just want Mizuki for sure. And if I don't get her on her actual banner, yeah, she's going to standard, but I still may never get that. And I don't know, I kind of just want to guarantee that I get her. And it's like, okay, that's fair. But then again, don't forget, we do have a guaranteed 5-star selector that we are supposed to be getting every year. That happened not too long ago, but also not too recently. So I think that should be coming up by the end of this year, where we could just choose a free standard. So you could choose Mizuki there. It's not impossible. You'll have a chance there as well. And then with Sigewinne, same thing there. She is an awesome healer, but once again, from a meta standpoint, there are just, I think, better options for healers that can do their job, but also just provide more to the team and just overall value, whether that be buffing or just element application, because Sigewinne's, you're not using Sigewinne for Hydra application. She's really a healer, and that's kind of strictly it. But moving on to our next question, we ask, what kinds of teams are you trying to build? And with Mizuki being that animo character, and really, you know, like Vixen already talked about, being usable really just from on field with her skill and all of that stuff. She has some heals, a little bit of damage. I think her main issue is that she's too fleshed out, trying to do too many things at once, which is making her kind of a jack of all trades, but doesn't really do any of those things exceptionally well. And that's okay. It does make her a flexible character, and I think she's an okay value character for especially like a new player. I just wouldn't recommend actually pulling on the banner. So if you're doing some teams for her, if you do want to have her, I think just because of how she works, she's going to be very, very flexible with all kinds of off-field supports and even off-field damage dealers of just any of these other swirlable elements. You can throw all of these 4-stars like Fischl, Xiangling, Xingqiu, etc., you know, Beta, whatever. The list can go on, and she can just work with that. Kind of similar to how you would build maybe a Hazo team. I'm sure an Electro Charge team or a Taser team is probably going to be just pretty fun. Like we've seen that with Lanyan as well. A lot of her Taser teams are just really fun. She's a shielder for the team. Mizuki is just going to be, in my opinion, another option to playing an on-field animo to just kind of do a soup team and have a lot of fun with it. I don't doubt that Mizuki is going to be a fun character to play, just not a meta option, of course. And then with Sigewinne for teams, wherever you need a healer, Sigewinne is an option. If you have a team where you need Hydro Resonance, but you don't want application, Sigewinne's actually a good pick for that because she has very poor hydro application, which can be good for some characters. From my experience, that's actually Mualani, because Mualani needs to vaporize and Sigewinne doesn't apply her element. So I was like, oh, that works, and it felt really comfortable because you can't die. I mean, Sigewinne's just healing everyone and keeping everyone alive. So anywhere you need a healer, I think Sigewinne's pretty good. And because she's not restrictive, it does make her pretty flexible.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good abilities between both characters, fun capabilities between both characters is how I should say it.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, we both kind of said, not meta tied really at all. Fun characters tends to be the extent of it. But the next question we actually have after that is, do you need the weapons? Now, looking at the weapons, the first weapon we have is an Elemental Mastery main stat weapon, Sunny, Morning, Sleepin'. The R1 ability states that Elemental Mastery increases by 120 for 6 seconds after triggering Swirl. Elemental Mastery increases by 96 for 9 seconds after the wielder's elemental skill hits an opponent, and Elemental Mastery increases by 32 for 30 seconds after the wielder's elemental burst hits an opponent. Seems like these can all technically stack on top of each other, giving a lot of EM, allowing for an insane amount actually. Obviously for good heals like we talked about, but also some really, really good swirl damage. I'm not really sure how this is going to be used on many other characters, especially because of the swirl, but the elemental skill hitting opponents and the elemental burst hitting opponents, EM help could still be pretty helpful if you look at some different characters. I know characters like Nahida, their skill hits enemies a lot, so getting that 96 whenever your skill hits an opponent could be pretty helpful. It is for 9 seconds. It's not an insane duration, but it is still a pretty long 9 seconds, and it's 96 elemental mastery. That still could be pretty helpful. Once again, it's not going to be an amazing weapon, but if you for some odd reason happen to get this weapon by accident, there are a few characters that could definitely use it. Looking at the other weapon, Silver Shower Heartstrings, this is going to be obviously specifically Sigewinne's weapon. HP percent main stat bow. Not a fantastic bow for a lot of other characters, and the ability kind of explains why. The equipping character can gain the remedy effect when they possess 1, 2, 3 stacks. Max HP will increase by 12, 24, and 40%. One stack may be gained when the following conditions are met. One stack for 25 seconds when using an elemental skill. One stack for 25 seconds when the value of a bond of life increases. One stack for 20 seconds after performing healing. Stacks can be triggered when the character is not on the field, and each stack's duration is counted independently. Additionally, when you have all 3 stacks, elemental burst crit rate is going to be increased, obviously helping specifically Sigewinne when she goes for that, allowing you to just have a better ability to maybe get some pretty good damage like we talked about before. Not an amazing weapon on other characters. If you have like an HP specific characters like Yelan or something like that, definitely could be helpful just as a stat stick, but at that point honestly it's just better to go after the personal weapons. These weapons are really just focused for these 2 characters, and rarely, if at all, are you ever going to really try to put this on another character.
Well, we hope that this video could help you decide whether or not to pull on these banners, whether the characters or the weapons maybe you're going after. As always, if you do have any suggestions that could help other players that we just didn't go over, go ahead and let us know in the comments, as well as just your overall thoughts of the video, these characters and weapons. Also, we do have a Discord, and you can check that out in a link in our description. Thank you again for watching the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.